everybody, and welcome to this episode of Rosie Speaks. Today I have Duchess Anna from the Outlands with me. Hi!
It's
How are
good to see you.
You
I'm
too.
doing well. Thanks. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you on. So in my recording schedule, you're real early in comparison to when your episode's going to air.
Okay.
And so as at this moment, I've spoken to two other duchesses, Sir Helga and Duchess Faiza. And
Nice.
I took some questions from both of their interviews, and I'm going to ask you some of those. And then I have some other fun ones sprinkled in.
Cool.
So first one is from Brienne. He asked, how has the SEA helped you develop as a person?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think there have been a lot of ways in which it's helped me develop as a person. First and foremost, probably giving me an outlet for all of the creative juice that's always like flowed through, and being able to meet people who appreciate that, and be able to learn so many different arts and skills through the amazing talented artists all over the known world. And so that's sort of more of like a physical way that it's made me like better, made me grow. But also I think that in a lot of ways it has been a big factor in me growing as a person, as far as like knowing in my heart what is right and wrong, and understanding the concept of stepping back from like your personal wants or needs or expectations and putting the needs of the people sort of first and foremost. That was not something that I was very good at growing up. I was very like self-centered as a kid, and I'd like to think that has changed a lot in having the opportunity to reign, especially. Like, people give so much of themselves to you with really no foundation for that, and it's like learning to give back and fully appreciate a big, what is the looking for, a big journey in my destiny in the SCA. I'm getting weird here with words, but yeah.
No, I totally get it, and I actually really like the way that your words sort of made it like a whole story. There's a path, and some people, and everybody has their own path in the SCA, and that's what yours is, and that's how you do yours. And I love hearing that aspect, and that actually is gonna lead me into my next question, which is, how is the SEA different now from now that you were a duchess from before you were a duchess? And how long were you active in the SEA before you were queen?
Okay. So this is kind of an exciting milestone for me this year, in fact, because this is the year in which I have played for one half of my entire life. I'm 38. I've been playing for 19 years.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a big deal, and it's playing with my head a lot, like, oh my gosh, how this has been a lot of time, and just thinking back on all of those things. But so my first reign was 11 years ago, in 2009. And I have to say, during that time, I spent a lot of time kind of trying to prove myself and playing the game on a smaller, like, baronial kind of centric level. And I knew the people close to me, like in the barony just north and just south. I had a few other friends, but I definitely, like, game was very minimal. Also in college at the time, and so I was limited on funds and resources and all of that too. But then So I had been playing for, what is that, 9 years, 10 years, before my first reign. And it was a huge change, a huge shift in, I went from going to events like once or twice a month to going to every event for 8 months.
2 seconds. Could I get you?
Yeah.
Could I get you to start from shift over again? My dump truck got here and did something weird to my sound, so I couldn't hear you at all.
Oh yeah, sure thing. From shift over.
Like it was a big shift from the 9 years beforehand to now to your first reign.
Okay, yeah. So then when I did get to reign, it was a big shift in my game and my perspective. Like I said, I'd been kind of myopic in the way that I played, which was still good because, you know, we need people active on all of those levels, but it definitely changed from going to like 1 or 2 events a month maybe to going to every event for 8 months solid. You know, the Outlands goes all the way from Casper, Wyoming to El Paso, Texas. We're a huge kingdom. It's like 25 hours of drive time from north to south, something crazy like that. And my first reign, actually, I stepped up in El Paso and I stepped down in Casper, like the 2 ends of the kingdom. So it was like there's maybe no better way to get the full breadth of that responsibility. But I got to know people that I wouldn't have otherwise, and training is an amazing thing for that perspective, because before that I knew maybe a hand fencers, I knew one archer. There were things that I wasn't intimately involved in that because you've got champions and you're watching tournaments and whatnot, you meet amazing people. And, you know, like anecdotally, one of my favorite people in the world now was my protector in my first reign. And Hawk and I have become friends, but when he won that tournament, I was like, I've never even seen this guy. I'm like literally afraid of him because he's just like this kind of young punk, all wearing black kid who like didn't say a word. And I was like, how am I going to spend 6 months with this dude? And then like it forced us together and it was wonderful. Like he's amazing. So,
what's a protector? Is that like a queen's champion?
Okay, yes, sort of. In the Outlands, we have a number of those positions. The protector is the fencing position. The protector of the queen's heart is the full title. Then we have the queen's champion, and then we have the defender of the queen, which is a new one, and that is for cut and thrust.
Oh, that's super cool. I love that there's like different titles for them. That's super cute.
Yep.
I love different culture. I'm still learning about it, so that's awesome.
Well, and it's interesting, even like there's even been some shift over the years. Like the protector has always been the big fencing tournament of the year, and so the protector tournament or the protector is picked by tournament format. Whew. Letters, words, vowels.
It's been a long time. Tournament is a hard word.
Tournament. So that's selected by tournament, but the queen's champion used to be that way, but it was sort of that is a much more intimate position. That person is with you all the time, and it has shifted from being a tournament position to now being the queen picks that position often, although that's not 100% the case.
I've noticed that's been that's at least like a couple kingdoms surrounding Kaid. That's how it goes. Is for the queen's champion, the queen picks. For us, we have a tournament for it, and it's one of our but it's funnily enough usually more attended than our crowns.
Yeah,
which is, you know, a thing that's said, but yeah, no, that's our queen's champions are definitely our biggest tournaments. So that's really cool that there's a whole tournament for a rapier position with the queen.
Yep.
That's super awesome. All right, let's go to our next question.
All right.
This one's from Francisco Rojas de Gomez y Sandoval. I know him as Kevin. I'm really bad. Sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent really fast. I'm really bad at meeting SEA people and having them I'm introduced to them by their real name. And then for the rest of forever, I will never be able to remember their SEA names. And the worst one by far is Sir Tiberius Finn. I was introduced to him as Ross, and he's never not going to be Ross now.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure like hashtag Rossface is not like, doesn't do that any good either. Like, I'm like,
no,
what is that
it
guy's
doesn't.
SCA name?
It's so hard. And he's so like, his face is so recognizable that it's just like, oh, nope, that's Ross.
Yep.
Okay. So Francisco asks, do you notice a difference in how each kingdom picks their peers? What is the threshold for asking somebody to join a peerage in your kingdom?
Oh, interesting. There's a huge difference. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I really like the interkingdom anthropology of because they may be the most separate of the ones that I'm familiar with. Outlands is very, the king's word is law, the crown makes those decisions. They're the people who in our kingdom, if you look at a peer, you often go, oh, they were knighted by this person, or they were pelicaned by, or whatever. They were elevated by this crown, and they are sort of forever linked in history in that way. And so in Outlands culture, it's very, the crown has to feel like they really want to do it. They want their name associated with that peer indefinitely. And so the peer circles happen at the discretion of the crown, and they make recommendations, and there's a polling, but the ultimate decision is the crown's. Whereas my understanding of like Caid circles is the peers themselves tend to more organize themselves, and there's like one big meeting per reign, and they kind of give their recommendations to the crown, and it's more of a vote and a unified, like, we believe in this person. And I don't think that necessarily means that like Outlands peers don't believe in the people that we're elevating, but it's just like it's coming from a different impetus, and it's just a very different thing, but it's super interesting to learn about.
It's super interesting. So I learned about the Outlands process from Leaf when he was king of the Outlands and was visiting us for Great Western War. And he was telling me about how at the end of the day, it's really up to the king and queen. And how I'm also not a peer, so I don't have like, I've never been to meetings and whatever. This is just what I've heard because I ask a lot of questions and I've gathered lots of information. Is that each of the peerages in our kingdom are polling orders, except for the Order of the Rose. So there's the knights that they have their lists and whatever, and then the knights come together and they vote on the candidates, and if the candidate passes, then the candidate passes. Mm-hmm. And from what I gathered, that's how it goes with pelicans, mods, and laurels as well. Because you are correct, we do have one, like our kingdom will have one big day of meetings. Well, not like the same day, but they'll have one meeting for each council during each reign. And then that decides everybody for their whole reign. it's really interesting to have the whole opinion or like the whole decision rest on the crown. And I don't know. I think it would definitely make choosing a little bit. I think it would become more what's exclusive, but like not in a bad way. Not like it would become I don't know, more it would seem like less of like an appeal to the masses type. Does that make sense?
100%. And it is interesting because you'll definitely have certain reigns where you notice a trend of like certain peers being made. They might be from a specific household or a part of a kingdom that the crown is more or less familiar with, depending. And it's an interesting part of Outlands culture for sure. Sometimes you kind of know as soon as crown happens whether your shall we say, whether your predictions of peerages are going to happen or not. But also, as like having elevated people, I also know that there were certain candidates that I maybe didn't feel personally comfortable with elevating, even though they had a strong polling. But knowing that maybe the next reign would be willing to do that, but just not feeling comfortable with putting my name on it for all eternity. You know, I definitely respect.
It's a weight. It's a weight to.
It is.
It's a burden because you don't want to be.
And
you don't want to be the king or queen that, I don't know, some night or some whatever turned out to be kind of a douchebag. Like that then reflects on you. And I think that it would, if like, for example, if I was to be elevated in a kingdom where the king and queen picked me, my whole rest of forever after that would process as, well, everything I do in this society reflects back on them, always. And in my kingdom, at least from my perspective, our kings and queens are they're all individual and they all have their own things, but we are very like symbolic about our kings and queens. So we are a very queen-centric kingdom, and so the king does all the fighting and is there and present and is like supportive and all that. But when it comes down to it, like in the like bare bones, we are a queen-centered kingdom for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes it another interesting culture change or culture shift is like hearing. So I've only ever visited the West Kingdom for SEA purposes. And their cultures and their courts are so different, specifically like because they have principalities. So not only do they have their king and queen, but they have all of their prince and princesses, which is not, it was a culture shock for me almost. Like my first Westie event was a principality coronet. And it was like, just as, like, it was just a whole different culture thing. And it's so cool to like learn the different aspects of the different, like that each culture uses. If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, like,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, the first time I went to Artemisia, I went to their coronation, and I had no idea what to expect. But I'd, seen 20 Outlands coronations, and they like, after one guy takes the crown off, he's like, bye, and everybody goes to lunch. And I was like, what is happening? There's no sovereign. Do I take over? Do I go Outlands? And we're like, what? And I mean, obviously I didn't, but like it crossed my mind. But like, it's so weird because like in Outlands, it's like this long, like this guy goes like this and then this guy puts it on, and that is as long as we don't have a sovereign. Like, it's so weird to me, but it's really cool too that like each kingdom has their flair, and they the things that are important and the things, you know, that are changeable
and that are specifically unique to them.
exactly.
And because we also have a like removal of crown from one sovereign to the next sovereign, but we also have like an intermission. So like there's a moment where all of our barons and baronesses that are sitting will come up and guard the thrones, because like they give our kingdom is pretty solid, pretty into like the show of it, and like the theater type aspects. So we have like about a 10-minute intermission between like the removal of the crown and like putting it back on the next head, so that if they want to change, or we have any like fancy theatrical thing, where we can have that set up. So but it's like pause and then go again. That's and it's like a really interesting thing that I noticed that we do that a lot of other places don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to lead me into, so Francisco had a second part to his question, which is, what is the threshold for asking someone to join your peerage, or a peerage in your kingdom? So for you, it's a personal thing. In that vein, what do peer-like qualities mean to you? If you were like looking at candidates and you were looking for peer-like qualities, what does that mean?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's not a set in stone metric of this many points of prowess and this many points of generosity and this many points of purity, or, you know, whatever it is. But I think it's an overall, the overall scales need to balance. And first and foremost, when I'm involved in an elevation, or if I'm speaking as a peer in an elevation, I need to feel very confident in this person that they will never embarrass me. Like, my relationship with them will never be one of shame. And that is, to me, first and foremost, that they're honorable, and their intentions are always that. At least that's what I have to believe at the time. And then some of it depends on which order it is, but I think prowess is really important, whether it's on the field, in your art, or the quality of service that you provide. You know, like there's that difference between helping and helpy, where you're like, I'm helpy. So the quality the quality of your work is important. And then there's also this interesting balance, like kindness important, and kindness doesn't always mean acquiescence and like, oh yes, I give you what you want all the time, but like that good spirit is really important. That generosity, it's not just look what I made for me, or I won this tournament for me. It's sharing the honor and sharing the wealth, and sharing whatever it is, your skill set, your knowledge, your teaching. You know, I love it when there's some, you know, up and coming seamstress who like clothes a newcomer and not like, look at me, I clothe queen, because I mean, we need that too, but one of those gets all the glitter and stardust, and one of them may not be on stage, but you have just made all of the glitter and stardust for that person forever. And like those kinds of elements really impress me in an up and coming peer, like somebody who does something not just for the visual aspect, but for the goodness of what they're doing.
I love that answer. A whole lot of things that I've been talking to people about lately is interactivity and togetherness, and how, like, at the end of the day, we're all human. So even if you have the queen who is up on stage with all the sparkle and glitter dust, that doesn't make her any less or more human than this newcomer over here.
Exactly.
So I think that people who can see that are the type of people that should be elevated as peers. And I love that that is something that you also agree with. And speaking of peers, this question is from Sir Helga. She actually asked me this question when she was on my show. But she asked me as a non-peer. I will ask you as a royal peer, how do you think peers can be more approachable, or do you think that peers need to be approachable?
Oh, I definitely think peers need to be approachable. That's a good question. I find this conundrum sort of challenging in a lot of ways, because I think that there are a lot of times people look at, you know, groups of people, royal peers or all the laurels or all the knights, whatever, sort of gathering on us and, you know, talking about their things, their business. And it can be really difficult to approach them, because you're like, oh, they're talking royal business, or they're talking knightly business. But sometimes it's sort of overwhelming. You're like, there's so much of it to deal with that we often have to. But I think it's important to sort of go back to our roots and say, what was important to me when I was new? Where was I hanging out? And not only be approachable, but remember to approach those people who maybe are hanging out at the weirdo corner of the tournament, or they're like shy and nervous to come from camp to participate in something in town hall, or, you know, whatever it is. You know, take those moments to go seek those people out. And I say this in a way that I hate saying it, because I'm nervous and scared talking to people I don't like. And I think it's important to remember that peers have like newcomer fear too, right? But it's important that, like, we have been here long enough where go approach people, because then that makes us approachable. And, you know, being that person who's willing to help some, sorry, this flies. Being that person who's willing to say, hey, this is your first knighting. Be prepared. He's gonna get punched. Like, don't be surprised. Like, I remember as a newcomer, my first knighting, when the buffet happened, just being horrified that this like active, you know, violence just happens in front of everybody. But sort of, you know, remembering that there are things that are part of our tradition and that are part of, you know, like have a really important purpose, and explaining those things to newcomers, because, you know, you and I have probably seen 50 of them, but, you know, somebody else hasn't. And so I think it's just important to think back on those things. And I mean, I don't know how we get people to be more approachable, because we're all a bunch of weirdos, honestly. But I think that it is something that it's something that we need to address in peer circles, and talk about, like, how do we do this together, and police our own, and be, you know, like, remind each other, hey, that was the first time somebody entered ANS. Don't make them cry this time or next time.
Crying is not nice. But I really like that response. So when Helga asked me this, I wasn't quite sure how to respond. I've been doing this literally my whole life. Like, people will be just like, like you, for example, you've done it for most of your adult life and half of your whole life. And so when people say, oh, I've been doing this all my life, that's what I think of. Is like, since you were an adult. I've literally been doing this. Like my first event, I think I was 8 weeks old.
Wow.
So I mean it, like literally my whole life. So it's really hard for me to think of the differences between what was before and what is now. I grew up, my family was sort of in the fringy pirates for a really long time. And then like two people showed up and decided that everybody was working and that everybody decided that they loved working. And we became this like super volunteer heavy household. And so, but like nobody at the time was a peer. And even now, of all of those people who did put in all those work early in the 90s, only one of them is a peer.
Mm-hmm.
And so my like, I don't know, scale of like what would be what makes somebody more approachable isn't really, it's skewed because I grew up sitting on queens' laps because I didn't understand the concept of a queen. I understand the concept of you have a high chair and I like being tall.
Yeah.
So
wearing something sparkly. It's
I'm gonna play with it. Oh, you're gonna let me like just do whatever the fuck I want while you talk to all these other adults? Cool. I'm gonna do that. So it's, I have a skewed perspective. However, I definitely understand now the concept of, it's not so much peer fear as much peer nervousness, because venturing out of kingdom where nobody knows who I am and I don't know anybody, it's definitely like, okay, that's a whole ass group of peers right there. Maybe let's not inject ourselves into their conversation, but then I do it anyways. I have impulse control, maybe, I'm not sure. But like the perfect example was last Great Western War. I was spending time with Her Grace Livia of Antir, and her and I were talking about something, and I had mentioned that I'd known Shea and Kiartan forever. Like, she used to camp with my mom. And Livia was baffled. It was just stunned by this, and it was wonderful. And the two of us went in and interjected ourselves into this like group of dudes. And I saw Kiartan and Joel, whose SEA name one day I'll remember, but I can't, who at the time was the king of Antir. And when we turned around and realized that we just barged in on a group of like 2 sitting kings and 15 knights, it was super interesting to be like, whoops, wasn't paying attention to who I was walking through. My bad. But definitely the point that I would like to make is that at the end of the day, we're all sort of awkward. We're all sort of nervous.
right.
Yeah. And it's just sort of how it goes. Okay,
Can I ask you a question real quick? Like,
of course.
Having played your whole life and knowing people, like you said, sort of like before peerage and, after, do you have an intimacy with the game that a lot of people don't have. And so I guess there may be 2 parts. Like, do you see like a journey that people have in becoming peers? Like, do you see it like, oh, I think that's going to happen for them here soon? And then like, also, does your relationship with them change when that happens?
So this is actually a very interesting concept. I've gotten much better at predicting the path or the closeness of peerages since I started being chief lady for kings and queens. And so over the past about 4 years, 3 years, I'm not sure, time is a construct.
Right.
I've been very, 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 worked really close with a bunch of the kings and queens. And I've gotten to sort of learn the patterns of the right before someone gets offered. Like, it's the one that I'm like really, like, I don't really know a whole lot of is the Masters of Defense, because I'm not super active in the rapier community. But like, you can see the people who are about to be offered knighthood, the people who are about to be offered pels. And I think that all art is amazing and wonderful, so I have no judgment when it comes to laurels, because I don't think that I'm an artist at all. So if anybody can do anything, that's great. They all deserve laurels. It's fine. That's why I'm like, if I ever become queen, I'm gonna have to like not involve myself in Laurel Council, because I'm just like, yeah, everybody should get it. That sounds fine.
It's pretty. Yeah.
It's pretty.
Totally.
They did it. Can I do it? No? Then they should definitely get something for it. But you can, it's a very interesting concept to watch somebody, there's like a year of struggle, I guess, for the potential peer. I've noticed in my travels is like, they'll be like going hard, and then they're no longer having fun. And as shitty as that sounds, in Kaid, it's at that moment when the potential peer like looks like they're no longer having fun from my perspective, that I go, oh, if they just push forward for another, like, just get through this little plateau, they're going to be given whatever path, whatever peerage they're going for. But that's the pattern. And it's like, I wish that wasn't the pattern. Like, I wish that people were rewarded when they were really excited and when they feel like when they hit their peak. Because it sucks to be going up, and when they're in an upswing and then they feel like they're doing so good, and then suddenly something happens and it's no longer, and I watch it every time. I watch people's lights dim and fade, and like, then they're just like trudging along, and it becomes more of a, I'm doing this because I have to.
It's heartbreaking.
And then they're given their peerages. Yeah. And so that's a bit of a rough thing to say, but it's true. It's not true in all cases, but I definitely have seen it be a common thing here.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I think it is. I think it's sometimes one of the common things I hear in peer circle is like, next reign will do it. And honestly, I mean, I'm guilty of saying that even as queen when I wasn't comfortable doing it. But I see a lot of maybe the people who are in opposition, maybe just say, oh, just give it one more reign, just give it one more reign, just, and it's like, how much can we milk out of them before they lose their spark and we lose them? And that's super heartbreaking.
I also like, it's very interesting being my age in the SEA. So not just like being in the SEA for my whole life, but being in my mid-20s, early 30s in the SEA. Because a lot of us have been doing it since we were in our early 20s. And a lot of us have been like really fighting and really working hard to whatever path or whatever we're doing. And it's like, it's really interesting to watch the people, even the people that I don't know, or I know of, or I've just like watched from afar. And it's watching them be excited one week, and then like the next they're just like there, and I'm just like, oof, you just gotta. I'm glad that some people are starting to notice in Kaid though, and are trying to change that, because it's a very interesting. All of our peerages in general, the whole concept and culture of them is very interesting, because each peerage, each path has its own set of cultures and its own like variants of rules, I guess. And your chickens are just making me laugh so much.
I'm sorry. They keep walking right by, and I'm just barely missing them. I'll get one soon.
But yeah, no, I definitely see like a swing. And so far, it's kind of a mix in the post-peer treatment, especially of their non-peer friends. For example, there is an individual who was in the household I grew up in, who became a knight, and then became a terrible human. Or it was brought to light that he was a terrible human. And he like just went from being like everybody's bud to being like too good for all of us. And he is and he like does he is a character, and everybody has their own issues and everybody has their own thing, and I'm not going to call anybody out like directly, but it's really weird to see this particular individual as a knight, because he would say shit like, oh, you're he thinks that I've sucked my way up the SEA circuit in Kaid, which is hilarious. And watching him like do this like swing back and forth thing to get in favor with royals that he was friends with, and then watched just like left his whole camp in the shit, like in the trash, essentially. That's the worst thing. And I'm definitely seeing a trend of like, oh, I know that I'm close to X peerage, so I'm gonna be on my best behavior. I'm gonna push really hard and exemplify everything that whatever peerage means for, like, is looking for, or theoretically is looking for.
Sure.
And then fuck off as soon as I get my peerage.
And it's so hard, because I feel like some people see that and see that kind of game that's being played of, I know the right things to say, the right people to say them to get what I want. And I think some people are like, that's tasty, keep feeding it to me, I like this. And they're the ones who kind of get suckered into that. And I don't think it happens often, but it's really heartbreaking when it does, because you're like, it goes back to that thing I was saying, like, they're not good. They're not doing this for the right reasons. They're doing this for the cookie at the end.
Yeah, and I think that it's positive right now for me to think of, like, I'm watching a whole bunch of my friends become peers. So I'm watching people in my age category become peers, and that's super exciting, because there are some people who I fought Boffers with who are now Viscounts in the West. Literally, Viscount Ulf and I grew up together. He is
awesome.
like, I think a whole year older than I am, maybe. Yeah. I was at his knighting. I was at his investiture. And there he is. He is a knight, and he was a prince, and now he's a viscount. And that's super awesome. Today in real time is June 3rd, and I just dropped a video with 3 of my friends who are knights, and I knew all of them before they were knights. and I got to be at their offerings and at their vigils and at their, like, I got to go through the whole process with them. And it's so exciting to watch, to see somebody who you got to watch, like, grow and change, get knighted. Like, I am, like, looking forward to the day that Brienne is knighted, because all I know is I'm just going to be like a puddle of crying. Of like, I've watched you struggle for so long. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. I think that now that I am of the, I don't know, echelon, I guess that's a weird word to use in it, but like now that I feel like I belong in the group of people that are peers, it's exciting to watch peerages happen. Like, I love, it's now my new fun thing. I love going to other kingdoms and watch peerages happen, because it's all so different. Like, our buffet, like, the first time I watched a West Knighting and their buffet is different than our buffet, I was like, my chest, because like you were saying, you were terrified. I wasn't terrified because I watched buffets my whole life, but like, punch to the chest is different than a strike to the face. And I was like, oh wait, no, it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well,
like, I
our
never want to
kingdom
get,
is usually up to the chest, face, so this is shocking to me. This is like infuriating to me. The people who buffet like this, I kind of lose my cool. I'm like, there are real life things that could happen to that person, yo.
Yeah, no. It's all open hand. And it's just so, but it's like, it's so cool because everything is so different. I heard that the laureling ceremonies out in Meridies are amazing. Larissa went out to Jen's.
Yeah.
He says, thank you. And she just talked about it for so long, and I was just like, that sounds amazing. I can't wait. All right. Well, I have
the first time.
Go ahead.
Sorry, one other thing.
No,
the first
you're fine.
time in Kaid, with the weight of the chain and like a bunch of them, we have our own thing. It's the baby knights chain, and every has one link, and it's knighted in. And so the weight of the chain is a totally different thing. It's super fun, but it's not this like bulk of like these people believing in you. Like, that's amazing.
You were at Kaid 40 year, right?
Yes, I was.
I think. And you were queen at the time. Yep. And so Sir Tiberius Fenn was knighted there. And he was, so the heft of chains that you were talking about was serious business. I think that during his knighting, there were 7 chains in the bulk that was given to him. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was. And it was just so intense watching, like, because it's each one of those has a weight. Each one of them has a lineage. So he has his like Squire lineage one, and then he has the ones that match his buddies, and then he has the Disney magic one, and then there's like a North something one that has like Icelandic magic in it or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so interesting. One of my favorite things that I've seen that Kaid does is they do a wreath of swords, where during the oath, the knights all put their blades on or like near the candidate. I really like that. I like the aesthetics of that.
Cool.
It's like, it's very like, this is the time period.
Right. Well, and then again, like, it's that continued like tying yourself, your behavior, your reputation, your destiny to the future, or, you know, with all of the people who are invested in you and all of the people who are there to witness it. It's just, it's such good magic.
It is. I love it. All right. So that's gonna, actually give me here. What question do I want to do next? This one's going to be from Mistress Mary, out of Kaid. She asks, in general, to most people, this question is: if you were to look at a new person in the eye and give them one piece of advice to make their SEA experience better, what would it be?
Gosh, that is such a good question. I would honestly, in reality, if I was in that moment, I would say way too many things. So I'm going to try to keep it short. I would probably say to do everything you can to preserve the magic and stay away from anybody who takes things too seriously. I think that's what I'm going with.
I'm gonna cry. That's good. That's good. That's a deep one. Preserve the magic.
It's hard. It can be really hard when you're, especially like when you're trying to grow and like get yourself elevated and be seen, and you know, you have to entangle yourself in the politics, and it's gross sometimes, and sometimes it's fun and amazing because you meet people you wouldn't, but sometimes, like, let's be honest, sometimes politics are really gross in the SCA, and don't rush into that. Like, preserve the magic and do what brings you joy.
I love that of all the recordings I've been doing, somebody has brought that up in every single one. You make my 10th recording, I think, and each and every one of the people that comes and that I have asked to be a guest on my show has said something along the veins of do what makes you happy, or have fun, or preserve the magic. But that, you were the first one who said something along the lines of preserve the magic. And that is now going to be my tagline. I'm stealing it from you, because at the end of all my shows, I usually say, stay positive. But now it's going to be preserve the magic, because I think that there's a different depth to that. I think that having the inspiration to keep the magic going, or to be somebody else's magic, is so important, especially right now where we have all been away from what we are used to, from our comfort zones for 70 plus days because of quarantine. And I don't know about your guys' kingdoms, but I know today our king just announced that July is canceled and that we might be looking up to 18 months total of canceled. So that would be an additional, pretty much basically until next July.
Yep.
And he said, we're not canceling anything yet. We're doing a month-to-month racket, but it's prepared to this be the way for the next year.
Yeah. I'm hopeful. We have things scheduled for September, but I'm not. We'll see. I'm hopeful. Yeah. These big of these, maybe all of these. There we go.
I know all the crossed things. I've been keeping up. I'm on a whole lot of the kingdoms pages throughout the known world, and so it's very interesting watching the different flavors of reopening happening. I know that there's a kingdom up in the east, up on the East Coast or near the East Coast, that has canceled everything until January, just to be safe. I know that the West and Kaid are basically just waiting for the mundane government to figure out what's happening, and that at the end of the day, being safe is what's more important. But if we can all find something to preserve any sort of magic while we're all stuck here and while we're all struggling to figure out ways to continue to be involved, preserving the magic is important. That's why I'm doing this whole show. So I love that that my guests are independently bringing my goal to life. It's my favorite thing.
Yay. That's awesome. I mean, honestly, like, I've been very selfish, but I've been like, how many videos can we do? Let's dance, let's be silly, let's do all the things, because it's
Yeah,
that way I want to see people's faces. And I miss, shenanigans with people IRL, so we'll take it where we can get it.
I know. And speaking of shenanigans, my next questions are all fun questions that have exactly nothing to do with the SCA. Are you ready? First one.
I am super ready.
If you had to rename your dogs today, what would their names be?
Oh, that's good. That's really tough because I feel like my dogs have pretty awesome names right now. So I'll let
What
you
are
know
their
what their real
names
names
for the
are right
audience?
now.
Yeah, there you go. Beat me to it.
So first I have Captain Pickles, and then I have Winston, who was named after a character often King Louis, who's a little
Wait, hold on. Who was he named after? Sorry, you broke up.
Winston Bishop. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Winston Bishop.
Winston was named after Winston Bishop on New Girl, so he gets named Winnie the Bish quite a bit. What would I name my dogs? They would honestly, like, I'm such a nerd, I'd probably name them, like, after, like, Harry Potter characters or something. Like, it's so tough. I need a second.
Okay, well then I will go with my dogs. So it's really funny. We have currently two dogs, our baby Pippin and our old lady Buttercup. So we got Buttercup and her brother Wesley 11 years ago. They were from the same litter, but they looked like they were from two different planets. And it was hilarious. And they were Wesley and Buttercup from The Princess Bride.
I love it.
We like to do our names like pairing if we're doing them together. We've always done it. I don't know why. So we missed out on calling our baby Peanut, because then we would have had Peanut Butter Cup.
Oh,
and it would have been so good. It would have been so good. So if I had to change one of their names, it would be Peanut Butter Cup. But because I have to change both of their names, I think that, our baby dog, so he's a German Shepherd Pit Bull mix. And right now he's in that phase where his ears are deciding if they want to be pointed straight up or flopped over.
Mm-hmm.
And he is not steady on his feet at all. But he's only 9 weeks, so he still is learning how to use his legs. And I definitely would call him Dope or Buddy, or just Bud, like Bud, because he comes to that. It's come here, Bud, and he'll like come, and we're just like, no, Pippin. Doesn't care, doesn't give a shit about Pippin. And lately, our old dog has become like the most crotchety old grandma that you could think of. What is like a grumpy grandma name?
Oh, like Eunice?
Eunice.
Something? Yeah.
Something like that. Definitely would rename her something like Eunice, where you would just like look at her and know that she is sophisticated and high maintenance and also kind of an asshole. Pippin has these like teething chew ring things, and Buttercup has always been food aggressive a little bit, and she's gotten a lot better in her old age. But now what she's starting to do is she's learned that she's tall enough to put her face on the tables. Now, she's been this tall for 9 years in the same house with the same tables. And it's only in the last 4 weeks that she's discovered she can reach on top of the table and take things.
Oh.
So her new cool thing that she's doing is all of a sudden, if there's anything that is edible or smells edible, and you turn your back for 2 seconds, she has taken it. And I am just like, we just don't even know what to do about it right now. So it's become this fun, like, game of like, cool, you can either sit and have this treat and ignore that thing, or you can go to dog jail. And dog jail is her cage. And now that she's old, she never, like, her whole life, it was crate training. She had to sleep in her crate because our other dog, Wesley, was a fucking menace. Like, they're both trained and trained. They could do things and sort of listen. But Wesley was a 100-pound dog who did not know he was 100 pounds. And so he would just like barrel through the house and destroy things. And his like 3-foot long tail would just kill everything, everything over. And so we couldn't have one of them in the cage and one of them out. So they both were slept in their crates all night, every night for their whole lives. And now Buttercup, that she's old, Buttercup gets to sleep wherever she wants. So she's either sleeping in mom's room or in one of the kids' rooms or wherever she wants because she's old. And now only goes to dog jail if she eats the puppy's treats. And so for the first time today, after weeks of this baloney going on, there was one of his treats on the floor, and she sat there and just like glared at it instead of eating it, and then waited for her treat.
Yeah.
But it's been this whole mission. It's like, excuse me, you've been behaved for 10 years. Why are you suddenly doing this? What are you doing, dog?
Yeah.
I guess. Whatever.
Back to the old age.
Yep. So she would definitely be Eunice. All right, your turn.
Yeah. All right. So I've got it. So Louie dog, King Louie, he's kind of getting old. He's got these like for real. And so he really does not like going up and down the stairs. He will do it once a day, come down for food, back up for beds. But when you go and like give him snuggles, he makes this noise and he's like, and so I think I would name Louis Sir Grumps-a-lot. That would be his new nickname. And then Captain Pickles is like the most like Napoleon complex little dog syndrome. If you're getting pets, I want those pets. If you're getting treats, I want treats. So like I often nickname him Jelly Dog, but I think that would like go official then, Jelly Dog. Yeah, because he'll like even when I'm on a Zoom, like I'm in part of the yard that only the chickens can reach, so he's not actually like in my lap, but otherwise like he will like Zoom when I'm talking to other people, like right here in my face. Like it's ridiculous. So that would be Jelly Dog. Winston. People have been following my Facebook. Winston will know. People will know. We had a like this crazy tray of nachos, humongous. And Dan and I like pigged out on nachos. There were so many left. We turned our eyes for like 2 seconds. Winston gobbled them all up, like every single last one. I thought Dan had actually washed the pan. It was that cool. So I would name Winston Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre. This is Pippin.
Pippin! Oh my God! Look at those ears. So I want to mush him.
He's 9 weeks old.
Isn't it 10 now?
Holy cow! He's gonna be humongous. Look at those paws.
Look at his paws.
Look at those pictures. Oh my God. Your tongue. Life is hard when you're a puppy.
I know.
Oh, the cutest.
He just wants to eat things.
Will he be an SCA dog?
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm super brokenhearted that Great West isn't happening, but
so are all of us. But yeah, no, he's definitely going to be an SCA dog. He is like, either he is zoomy and just will not be still, or he is the chillest dog on the planet. It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's like really funny. Brandon is his human. And like he gets so excited whenever Brandon comes to his presence that he just like starts jumping around like a little bunny rabbit and like running in circles and running in circles, and then like licks Brandon's face. But if you're not Brandon, he might bite your ankles off. He's a silly dog. Okay, dog question happened. Next question is, what is your favorite tattoo that you have?
Oh, that I have?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to sound super narcissistic, but it's my leg sleeve that I've been working on lately.
Your quarantine one?
My quarantine leg sleeve. Here, I'm gonna give you a little peek at my legs, which are not shaved, no lie, but they're the tattoo that used to live here that doesn't now. And so now I have flowers everywhere. I mean, that's as much as I'm going to show you. I think it's going to come down here soon. We'll see how much quarantine tattoo time I do.
So you did it as a cover-up? I didn't know that. That's cool.
I did, yes. It it actually inspired a full leg. Like it's up to like partway up my, I also have my pajama pants on under here, so I don't know how much I can show you, but like
it's all right.
It's way up to my knee and like a good 8 inches above my knee. And there was a tattoo about the, well, no, it's probably bigger, this big, that needed to get covered up. And I was like, well, I think I'm gonna have to black out a big area because it's a real dark tattoo. And then I started looking at blackout tattoos, and then flowers came in play, and now it's a whole thing. Like now it's a whole thing. Gymnastics, craziness.
I desperately miss getting tattoos. It's like I want so many that I had to prioritize them. So like my next thing is I can't decide if I want to finish my sleeve or if I want to get my dinosaurs tattooed on me, because dinosaurs or books.
Oh, yes.
Totally. Those are my struggles. And it's just like, obviously now that I'm just sitting here in quarantine waiting, I get to flip back and forth between all of them. So I've decided that it'll be like picking petals, and at whatever day I land on, that's what I'm doing.
Going for it.
Yeah. Going for it. Oh, man.
That's awesome.
It's hilarious.
New Mexico just opened up for tattooing, but only at 25% capacity. And I work in a place that's like pretty big. So that means 7 humans, but that's in the salon, the nails, the tattoo, and the vintage clothing store that are all under the same roof. So
that's rough.
That's 2 days a week for me, which the owners have been amazing with working, but understanding also that like there are a whole bunch of faces that need to work in there. So 2 days a week for the foreseeable future. Colorado's more open, so I may go up there, but there's that balance between like safety and sanity and like fear of COVID and paying my bills. Like there's
it's a good tightrope. Yeah, it's becoming a real big thing. Brandon has been like, we've both been out of work throughout all of COVID. And he goes back on Friday and goes from he's going from 0 hours a week for the last 12 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever, however long it's been, to 50 hours a week.
Holy moly.
Hit the ground running on Saturday. So
what's he gonna be doing?
He's training to become a restaurant manager.
Okay. Cool.
So he's worked at the restaurant, this same restaurant, for the past 5 years, and recently about a year ago was offered like they expressed interest in making him a manager, but he wasn't sure about it. And then he expressed interest at the beginning of the year, and then COVID happened, and so we're just like, shit, maybe it's not going to happen. And then like literally a week and a half ago, he got a phone call and was just like, oh, you're starting in the next 9 days. Okay.
Whoa.
That was
Let's
fast.
make it happen.
What about the rest? What about the rest? Okay, cool. I guess hit the ground running. So
Yeah.
that's definitely going to be a whole thing. He's running through the whole, like, the restaurant policies to be open. Like the store that he is going to be training at can only host like 17 tables at a time. If that means like one party takes up all 17 tables, then that's what that means. But
yeah,
17 tables, period. And so that's crazy. It's going to be a whole interesting thing the way California opens. But I'm definitely I'm a little nervous about him going back to work so often.
Totally.
Being out for so long. But I can't wait, because getting a semblance of normalcy
feels good.
Help my brain. Oh yeah. It's been a whole thing. All right. 2 more questions. Next question is, what is the hardest or most challenging tattoo you have ever worked on?
Ooh.
That is not your leg.
That has been that's a different type of challenging. I'm trying to think of any like specific ones, but like anytime I'm working off of someone else's image, like there's one that I did that was like, I want to say it was maybe a World of Warcraft character or something, but it was like this really intense, like skeletal man with fire, and it wasn't my art, and fire is hard, and it was like, I oftentimes love those challenges, but the detail when I'm not familiar with the design, because it's not my art to begin with, those are usually the most challenging. For skeletal fire guy especially, being like, oh, like really brain challenging, because I was like, is there rib? Is that like a shred of a shirt? Where's the fire go? How, and how does it look real also without being like this big? Because I was working on a forearm, which is also a challenging space. What was that?
The forearm is a small space.
Yeah, it's a small space. And yeah, like anything with a lot of negative space is difficult, or with like a glow. There was also one I did that was like a light bulb that was exploding with lightning, and that was challenging too, like getting a glowing effect, because you can always make something darker. You can't really go the other way very easily.
I really wish I was wearing one of my dresses that I could roll up my sleeves, because you did my TARDIS here that I have here on my forearm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because one of the things that I get commented on a lot is there's like a little light on top of the TARDIS, and you made it like have like a little halo shimmer, so it looks like it's glowing. And I get comments on that a lot, and how like the white work stayed in, but also my skin tone makes it so white stays pretty solidly.
Yeah,
nice. Which helps a lot. But that's super funny that you say that you started with someone else's art. I'm super like, I don't really like bringing in art, like somebody else's art, to my artists. So when I came to you with the blueprint that you did on my shoulder of the Swan Theater, which is what the Globe Theater was modeled after, I was like, I really just want this like stuck to my arm. Can we do that? And you did, and it was like wonderful. But also it was a fairly like, it was a sketch. So it was literally like, it's a blueprint of a theater complex.
That's way easier.
Than like a
Like, 'cause
whole
it's forward. It's
portrait.
line work. It's
Yeah.
yes. Exact tracing, that's one, like, easy, but like negative space and lots of little, anything that's like a million tiny things, like it's difficult. You can make lines with a liner, right? And it's like a group of needles that, for everybody who doesn't know, it's like a group of needles that come to like a pen or pencil point, right? And you can make lines. And then you have a sheeter, which is sort of like needles like this that are more like a paintbrush.
Right.
But there's not a whole lot in the in-between zone. Like, there are like brown sheeters, and there are other, like, there are tons of like needle configurations. But the most common are those. And like, if you've got a bajillion like itty bitty squares, it's like, do I just with my sheeter? Do I with my liner? It's those are also hard where you're like, what is the perfect tool for this?
I also can confirm that she does sort of just like talk to her things like that. It is like, wait, no. Okay, no, that's fine. We're good. Everything's cool. And it's 100% my favorite thing ever. I love it.
Stream of consciousness working.
It's my favorite thing. All right. So this is a very last, it's very serious question from Viscountess Larissa. When is your next drunker size class?
Oh my God, how soon do we schedule this?
Immediately. Via Zoom.
Deep lunges.
Perfect. Exactly.
I have been consuming some of the Screwball peanut butter whiskey, which I
love that stuff.
Love it. Yes.
I love it. I have to go to the grocery store after recording, so I have to go like be public and stuff, which is boring.
That's tough. I have to finish. I actually have a big tattoo weekend.
Woo!
Premiere weekend of tattoos. I have so much prep to do.
Ooh, how exciting.
I'm excited.
Are you excited
though.
to go back? Yeah.
Yes. I haven't been able to like wrap my brain around doing work stuff because it was so nebulous as to when I was going to get to work. And now that I'm like, okay, it's coming. I probably put it off too long, but it's finally like, it's here.
It's here. Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's it. We got through our questions. We had a wonderful time. I would like to thank your chickens for only being a quiet background rumble. I love it.
Oh, good. Oh, except I caught one.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure this is Henrietta.
Hi, chicken. I love it.
Yep. They were pretty good.
They were pretty good. All right.
Bye.
Bye, Henrietta.
Okay.
And bye, Anna. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a wonderful time.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. Me too.
Yay.
Take care.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
You too.